everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two scar hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, we are. We are born again. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Eddie.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone in TV land, online land, and all those other lands.
Yeah, podcast land.
Podcast land, Facebook Live land. Yes, I will try to speak more loudly so you can hear us. I think the audio is fair. I mean, they can pick it up
on the Facebook Live.
On Facebook Live, but not as good as the other. But anyway, that's the City Chiefs World Champions.
Have you ever watched a game where before the game started, you thought that you wanted one team to win? As soon as the game started, your heart was really with the other team.
No.
It's happening Sunday.
And I can't think a team went to win after the game started.
Kansas City. I really did.
From the beginning?
Yeah. Before, you asked me before when we were doing a pre-show, who you vote, and I said, I'm supporting NFC.
I switched to Kansas City.
After the game. Yeah.
Well, okay. That's a surprise. Okay.
And it wasn't because I don't like Philly. I mean, the team. I don't like Philly as a community.
Wait. Time out. Okay. Think of this. Just
I know
what you just said. No, that's not it. So you're telling me that you actually like a team, but you hate the people.
Fans.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when you dissect what you just said, it doesn't sound that good.
Yeah.
We may want to rethink that. The fan base.
Right.
It's kind of how I am with OU fans. In Oklahoma. It's not a popular thing to say. Sometimes there are certain aspects of OU fandom that I really have a hard time with. And there's certain OSU fans as well that it's over the top.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who's worse though. You know who's worse? You can't guess?
Oh, I got a number of good hunches.
Well, take your guess. I'll give you two shots. There's two teams that you could probably guess, but pick two. Just name two that come to the top of your mind.
New York?
No, college.
College. Oh, okay.
OSU.
Oh, yeah. Well, who loves Alabama?
Ah, there you go. There you named it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Crimson Tide fans, they're just over. They're just out of control. You know, they can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. You know, and the other one would be Ohio State. You know, and it's not just the fans; they've got the media behind them.
Yeah,
that's what makes it.
Oh, ESPN owns Alabama, so what are they going to do?
And Ohio State.
Yeah,
well, especially Kirk Herbstreit, who went to Ohio State, was the quarterback for Ohio State. So how fair is that? And he's doing the game, and he's even doing their games.
Yeah, but ESPN has a fiduciary interest in the SEC dominating.
No, I understand, but I'm saying even beyond all of that.
Yeah.
Then when you got a guy who graduated from a certain school who broadcasts their games and stuff, the stuff is just weird. But there's certain schools you can name them. You've got Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia. Georgia's kind of, it's weird. They're kind of like OSU, you know, in the Big 12. And then you've got USC, Oregon.
Oh, God, yeah.
Let me think. Washington would, I guess, be in the next rung. Penn State.
Oh, geez.
Penn State's another one, you know.
Yeah.
And so these are like the fair-haired boys
Yeah.
of college football.
Right.
And anytime these teams are up there,
Yeah.
whoever they're playing has already got 2 strikes against them.
Yeah, here's my thing. When in the last 10 years, and you know Philadelphia as a city, their sports franchises have won a number of championships, baseball,
Right.
football, and that the rioting, the harm done to innocent victims is worse when they win than when they lose.
Yeah, yeah.
Kansas City won. How much rioting did you see in Kansas City? None.
I don't recall any.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see the Babylon Bee story?
Tell me.
They had a picture of the Philadelphia fans rioting before the game. They're right, just rioting before, just to get ready for the rioting after.
Get it off the checklist.
Just to practice, as a practice for after the game or something.
Hey, before all the windows are busted out, man, get mine in, right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot one. I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot one that Oklahoma fans will relate to. One of the fair-haired boys, which actually usurps OU, and it'll be very near and dear to the hearts of OU fans. Who do you think that would be?
I don't know.
Who's the most hated team?
Well, historically, it was Notre Dame.
Well, no, to OU.
Yeah.
You think Notre Dame?
OU had the record for winning streak until Notre Dame came in to Owen Field and defeated them.
Well,
that's going way back.
Yeah, there's one that is a little dear. Texas.
Oh yeah.
Texas.
Well, of course you got it.
Texas is another one that they just love Texas.
Yeah.
They love those Longhorns. So, as someone who, I of course, I'm a Texas Tech fan. But after that, it's Big 12. Okay. It's Tech because that's my school. Then I moved to my state. It's OU and whoever they're playing. And then that year, depending on which team is closest to the championship, it's OSU or OU, okay?
Right.
And then, so for example, if OU is 10-0, or OU is 10-1, I don't want OSU to upset them.
Yeah.
But if it's the other way around, if OSU is 10-0,
right,
and OU is 8-4 or has no chance of,
right,
then I don't want OU to upset them,
right,
or Kansas State or Kansas or
especially when there's just 4 teams picked for that playoff.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But and you can ask my wife this or my friends if they're playing Texas Tech. I don't want Tech. I literally have been at OU playing Tech and rooted for OU against my own team.
You're a big man.
Because all my team can do is ruin it.
Yeah.
For OU.
So you're not into spoiling your own conference.
No, because you hurt yourself.
Yes.
Because then you hurt your conference.
You actually cost your conference money.
Hello.
If you don't get a team into that playoff by selection committee.
You hurt the conference money, which hurts recruiting, which hurts your team.
Yeah.
Because in the future, you can't recruit because your conference doesn't have money to get you money. And in general, just you can't compete in the future.
Right.
And your conference keeps going down, down, down. And this is why teams like OU and Texas will leave for money at bigger conferences, bigger conference.
Yeah, and I just got it right, and that's really important because when a team is selected for the football tournament, those 4 teams, it'll be expanding, but the money doesn't go to that school. It goes to their conference and it's divided evenly.
Right.
And so Tech may be 3-8 for the year, but they get just as much money as an 8-3 team.
Right. You know who the worst team, the worst spoiler team in the Big 12 is year after year?
Iowa State is one of them.
That's one of them.
Kansas State.
Exactly. Those are the two. Really, I mean, those two tend to year after year just ruin it for the others. I mean, it's just the weirdest thing how those two teams can so badly spoil it.
Yeah.
Now if you got Baylor that is 9-2 and OU is 10-1, but you can't ask them to lay down and die. You know what I mean? You can't.
No,
that's a different deal. Or if
right.
if OU is 10-2 and OSU is 10-1 or 9-1, or anything like that, you got to make it's a competitive game, right? But man, when you are down in the bottom rung or in the middle of the pack, and you got the top of the pack in the Big Ten, Big 12, or any conference, man, don't. I mean, I know you're supposed to play to win and everything, but come on, you've got to use some sense and don't. I don't know. I know people will disagree with me because they'll say, well, no, you can't just lose, but at the same time, I don't know. I just think there's a way to play. You're still going to play your heart out. You're going to play your heart out.
Oh, yeah, always play your
right.
game.
But at the same time, the fans shouldn't be there with this venom to we're going to be, and then rush the field because your 1-9 team beat the 10-0 team. Yeah, we beat the 10-1 team, and we just killed our conference's chances of winning the national championship. And now instead of being in the Final Four or whatever, they're going to be home like us watching on TV, and we're not going to get a part of that money for our school and our program. So anyway, that's
one last thing. Since we got into the
Big 12. How did we get to college and we were talking about the Super Bowl?
Well, bad teams you hate to see win. Yeah. So we were talking on the phone this week about the Big 12 conference changing. Particularly, we're focusing on football. Basketball is another thing. But I think you and I came to agreement on something of how the conference should organize, not just for next year with 14 teams, but beyond that. I think we both agreed in kind of having a southwest, I might say, and a north and east division. We said the 4 Texas teams that remain, Oklahoma State and BYU. You like that idea.
Yeah.
And so I'm just advocating that out there to other people.
But something new has been added. I just read last night. Yeah. Okay, they're now courting 4 Pac-12 teams.
On top of that. That would make us a 16 team.
Right. Just like.
Wow. Can you tell me who?
Yeah.
Because you and I talked about this. You said that's good pickings right now.
What's weird is it's not the 4 that I would probably have chosen necessarily.
Which were Arizona, Washington. Who else did you say?
Utah.
Okay, Utah.
Yeah.
And one of the Southern Cal teams, UCLA or USC?
UCLA. Oh, no, USC, and is it UCLA or Oregon that's going to the Big Ten?
I haven't heard a definitive. I've heard rumors.
No, USC and it's either UCLA or Oregon are moving to.
No, so that's news. That's
really?
Well, to me, I'm sorry. I haven't heard.
Oh, no, they're already gone.
Okay, so Pac-12 is getting picked apart.
Pac-12 is already gone, yeah. Those 2 are gone. So, but to me, well, the teams that are we're looking at are Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado wanted to come back, makes sense.
Right, but they're the worst team in the Pac-12. Now, maybe they will be able to. Well, the good thing they've got Coach Prime.
Prime time, yes.
They've got Coach Prime, and maybe Coach Prime will pick them back up.
I think he will.
No, I agree. I think Deion. Deion is someone you either love or hate.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing, Deion has been able to attract some really good coaches around him, and I think he'll be able to recruit well, and I think he's going to be successful. So I hope that, and he's a very high character guy.
Yes,
he really wants to see his players have high character, and he wants them to grow beyond football. He really wants them to do well in life.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that he turns Colorado around, makes them a power again, and joins the Big 12. Yeah. And Utah, of course, is already a powerful team. If they come, Arizona State, I think would be good. And it makes sense because those are the closest teams.
Arizona is stronger than Arizona, especially basketball. Arizona is a basketball school.
Yeah. So if we bring it, and they're the closest to us.
Yeah.
And we've got Brigham Young out there, so it doesn't make Brigham Young. We have Utah and Brigham Young.
Yeah.
Then you have both of those schools closest to us, or the same. That's the western edge of the Big 12.
Yeah, because we're taking back territory. Then all of a sudden, the Rocky Mountains, especially if Boise State ever stepped up to a major conference, that's the only other one that you will own the Mountain Conference time zone.
Yeah, but we're full up there. We've got 16 teams.
Yeah, I know.
They're not coming to us.
But what are the chances you get the 4 that they want on the list?
Yeah, we don't know. But
you want Washington, right?
Well, we can't get Washington.
Oh,
I don't think we can get Washington.
okay.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch. So Washington would be great. Either UCLA or Oregon would be good because UCLA has really come up, and Oregon is very strong.
Okay, so
but
Oregon
and
USC.
USC, I think it's USC.
Which one's going to the Big Ten?
I think it's UCLA and USC. So I think Oregon is still out there for somebody
so
to
the
grab.
Big Ten's taking both of the LA schools?
I think so.
Wow.
It's either UCLA. I know USC is one of them. The other one I can't remember if it's UCLA or Oregon.
Yeah.
But I think it's both LA schools.
Yeah.
If not, then that would have been a good pick. But I think Utah would be a really good one because they've shown how.
What you want to find is people with schools with programs that have lasting consistency. I mean, Colorado, there was a time they were amazing, but that was for a few years under one coach.
Right, exactly.
Now, of course, they're bringing Dion in.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, back to the NFL, the National Football League, or some would like to say the National Frustrating League.
Yeah.
The pregame, there's a lot of discussion, and I agree. Carrie Lake was at the game because she's from Arizona.
I want to confirm. Excuse me. It is UCLA and USC.
Okay, so Oregon is still available. So who knows? They may end up in the Big 12 too.
Okay.
I mean at the Big 10. But anyway, Carrie Lake, there was a big stink and a hoopla because she would not stand for the Black national anthem. I think she's totally right. There's no need to stand for because we stand for the national anthem. There's only one. There's no Black national anthem.
Right.
If you're Black and you want to stand for what you call Lift Every Voice and Sing is the name of the song. If you feel so inclined and you want to stand for that song, feel free, help yourself. But there's no compulsion. There's no reason to take off your hat, hold your hand. There's never been any reason to stand up for the Black national anthem.
The only time you stand for multiple or somebody else's is if they are, let's say, the Phillies are playing Toronto. And, you've got that kind of thing because you're peers on the same level. Or if you're playing an NFL game at Wembley Stadium and they play
It's another nation, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, another national anthem.
Right.
But you're not.
With whom you're a peer and equal to.
Well, there's no Black nation.
Exactly.
We're one nation under God,
it is,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eddie, the Black national anthem, I will say, is both divisive and racist. Because what would they say if a black man was was criticized for not standing for some white nationalist thing?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, no, what's next? The Hispanic national anthem? The Asian national anthem?
And this is why I'm so critical in our state government of giving some kind of special status to the tribes. In these tribes, they want not just their congressman in like District 2, but they also want a separate congressman from their Indian nation.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
That's
such a violation of 14th Amendment equal protection.
No. Either you're American or you're not. I mean,
as Teddy Roosevelt said, There's one American flag. We are one people and only. And there's no hyphenated.
No.
Here he said that over 100 years ago.
Abraham Lincoln and, dare I say, Jesus said it better.
Tell me.
A house divided against itself cannot stand.
Yep.
Okay. That end of story. You've
Yep.
got to have one nation under God, indivisible. And this is what we have forgotten. The pledge. And that's why they're trying to get rid of the pledge. They don't want anybody. You know, it started when, I remember when I was a little boy, we had Jehovah's Witnesses in our class. And the Jehovah's Witnesses did not have to stand for the pledge. Okay. Well, to me, that started it. When you let a Jehovah's Witness sit there, you know, and not stand, because they say, well, my religion tells me I don't have to stand. Next thing you know, Muslims now don't have to take the women don't have to take their veil down.
I don't think any of it should be mandated.
They were trying to tell the women that they don't need to take their veil off to take their driver's license photo.
Yeah.
Well, now, so do you agree with that? That a Muslim
the
woman
driver's
should
license.
not have to.
No, if you've got a national security interest where you've got to do certain things like that, the point is it should apply to all. Whatever it should apply to all.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't like anything that where the government lists certain.
Okay, so you're saying, all right, so this is good discussion. Speaking of the national anthem, so you don't think anyone should have to stand for the national anthem
compulsory? No.
or the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, and here's why.
Okay.
I homeschool my kids. You know what I ask kids to do? Write their own pledge. They had to think, what is my duty? What is my obligation to my nation, to my fellow citizen, to my community? That's where I'm at. Because true patriotism isn't about kissing up to a government. It's about protecting your people from their government.
Okay. So if you get a kid who decides to stand up and say, I pledge allegiance to the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler and his ideals, and I'm sorry that they lost the war, and I wish somebody would come and revive the Third Reich.
Within the confines.
Now you're adding. Now you're adding.
Boy, now you're afraid.
You're adding to it.
Because I'm about to answer you.
Okay.
And in the context of a political ideology discussion, it should be an open discussion. Okay. When you're going to say, this is the position that all of us are mandated to hold, you can't do that. As long as you're not inciting sedition,
right?
A person has a right to say their views are.
So basically, that kid had a right to do that.
Well, you have a freedom of speech. You don't have a right
inciting-
to be heard. And to make an accommodation for somebody is not required of any government entity to make certain special accommodations.
See, you're making it complicated now, David.
I am. And this
Making
is
it
why
too complicated.
when you start creating these kind of rituals, you create a problem.
See, people, all I wanted to do was talk about the Super Bowl.
And I don't believe that
taking
it
it a
should be a
whole other
mandated ritual that there be a national anthem before any sporting event, any competitive event, they don't do the national anthem for the school play.
Well, I think Megan Rapinoe would just applaud that. I think she would agree with you.
Again, when you get caught up in rituals like this, and you do it just because it's always done.
But see, here's the problem I have then. And this is a problem I have with people like Megan Rapinoe and LeBron and you name a whole list of them, okay? Or Colin Kaepernick, okay? They will sit there and want to kneel for the American national anthem. But then if they're playing in an international game, they're playing against Canada, they're playing against Great Britain, Spain, whatever, they'll be on their knee. They'll be standing up, honoring the foreign, and who brought the slaves to America?
Exactly.
Spain, Portugal, England, right?
It's this bad, Eddie. I watch Baltimore Ravens play the New England, or should we say Boston Patriots, used to be called, played in Wembley Stadium an exhibition preseason game, and they all stood for God Save the Queen,
but
kneeled, all of them.
Yeah.
Think that Baltimore, the nation which is being attacked in War of 1812, from which we get the national anthem.
Right.
They're on the Queen's side.
I know.
And New England Patriots, the Boston Tea Party, they're called as those patriots because they were against King George.
Yeah, they weren't patriots that
And
day.
like, no, you need to get rid of that mascot because you dishonor it.
No, I agree. I mean, these are things that some idiot never thinks about when they're sitting there kneeling.
But
do you realize how stupid you are?
Yeah.
Do you realize what a fool you have just made of yourself? You're sitting here kneeling before the Queen, singing "God Save the Queen," and yet, or you're standing there for their national anthem, but you're kneeling for ours. You know. Now in England, here's the funny thing though. But here is kind of a counter to that. You're actually. Imagine if they had knelt to God Save the Queen. You're kneeling before the Queen. In a way, it's almost better to stand rather than kneel for God Save the Queen. Does that make sense?
Well, when you're a guest in somebody's country and they're paying how many millions of dollars in tickets to come see
You're
it?
missing my whole point.
Okay.
What do you do before a king and a queen?
Oh, yeah, it's a bow, curtsy.
You kneel.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. So in a way, maybe it was better they stood for the Queen instead of kneeling before the Queen. But anyway, to get back to the Super Bowl, because I never got to finish.
Is that what we were talking about?
That's what we were talking about. The Kansas City Chiefs, the world champions once again, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts played a good game. Although it ended up being his fumble and recovery run back for a touchdown ended up being the game deciding factor of the game.
Oh, yeah, it was that close.
And the Chiefs defense rose up. Now, people always want to blame the referees. This has become a cottage industry of late to blame the refs. Or the referees didn't call. They shouldn't have called that holding at the end. Come on. It was a hold, okay? He held him twice. And what's funny, what I don't like is selective vision, okay? Everybody, and to their fault, Fox, only on the replay, and the one that people keep showing is when Juju Smith was making his turn, the guy had his hand around the guy's hip. That's the replay everybody sees. What they don't show unless you go to objective commentary on YouTube, you can't find this. When he first made his break, the guy had his shirt. He was pulling his shirt. So he held him actually twice. He had his shirt, then he grabbed him around the hip, and then they say, well, it was uncatchable. Well, it was uncatchable because you held his shirt and you held his hip. So, it's one of those things that it's human nature. You're upset, and I saw another person who dissected the game, and they showed 4 different calls that the referees made for the Eagles.
Yes.
Instead of.
That's what I wanted to get to. Rob Schmidt on his first program on Newsmax, the Monday night after, he said, I want to talk about the officiating because we were really disappointed. Oh, man, he's going to go straight to that last holding call.
Yeah.
Right? No, Rob Schmidt went to 2 other plays, including the one where it was a backfield, pass. The guy caught it with both hands, had it secure.
Right.
Turned
to go, yeah.
And got smacked. The ball goes out. It's run back. It's an incomplete pass.
Right.
Rob Schmidt says, how is that not a complete pass? And the commentator said, well, he didn't take a step, especially that specialist, that they have whenever there is a review.
Right.
He says, but he didn't make a step. The rule isn't a step. It's a football move. And a pivoting to look downfield is a football move.
He caught it, turned to go, and that's when he got hit.
So when Rob Schmidt talked about the officiating, he packaged a bunch. Some that went one way, some that went another way.
Right.
And what Rob had the biggest problem was that one, because it was reviewed and then overturned. Mm-hmm. You know, because do you remember back in the 70s when the rule was that a receiver, when you throw a ball, it can't touch two receivers' hands.
Right, yeah, I remember that. The Immaculate Reception. The Immaculate Reception.
And then the next year after that, I remember my Vikings was playing Detroit in a last-ditch Detroit Hail Mary. Their receiver caught it up in the air, and then as he's coming down, he still hasn't come down. In midfield, he pitches it to another runner, and they make it another 20 yards, but they did tackle him. Right. And I said, no, wait a minute. That violates that rule. And a sports
the hook and lateral is what that is.
Yeah.
It's the hook and lateral play.
And because the rule is you don't just catch it, you have to come down and be planted.
In fact, the prettiest hook and lateral that you'll ever see in the NFL was Randy Moss for the Minnesota Vikings, where he got it and then pitched it to the running back who ran it for a touchdown.
Well, he was at the 3-yard line, but see, he had run quite a ways. And two guys were tackling.
the one I remember, it was farther out.
Okay.
It was a good one. He pitched it and the guy ran it.
Yeah, I remember him doing it a few times.
Yeah.
So, so that was the thing is like, wait a minute, if a guy can catch it up in the air before he comes down, pitch it to another guy, and that's considered a reception and a backwards lateral.
Right.
Then how is this?
Yeah.
Was there bad calls? Of course. What game didn't have some bad calls?
Right. No, I agree with you. The other thing, in the very first Super Bowl that Mahomes played in, there was a call, and it was against the New England Patriots, and Brady threw a pass. It was intercepted. There were like 30 seconds left in the game. Brady throws the pass. It's intercepted by Kansas City, and the guy takes a knee. Boom! They have the ball. They could have run out the clock. Game's over. It was the AFC Championship game.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. AFC Championship game. And they're all excited. Everybody's ready to run on the field. Referee, nope, there's a flag. The guy was lined up in the neutral zone. It was offsides.
Yep.
Because the guy was like, his head was like a couple of inches over the line. Every game, the way they have the camera, you can see guys lined up offsides. Every game. So all these people, well, maybe he was holding, but you never call that in such an important game. You would not call it. That I did not hear one person, not one person that I ever see complain about New England, Tom Brady being pulled out of the fire by that call at that critical a time, because that affected, they got the touchdown. He got that call, that play back. Okay. Next play or two plays later, they got a first down, and a couple plays later got a touchdown. They win the coin toss, and march down, touchdown. Again, Kansas City never got the ball back. New England went straight down, scored. Next year, what happens? Kansas City goes, or I guess 2 years later, 1 or 2 years later, Kansas City goes down. No, it was 2 years later. It was last year. Plays Buffalo. They tie it up, win the coin toss, go down and score, right, in overtime. First series, Buffalo never gets to touch the ball again. The game's over. All of a sudden, everybody's screaming, "Oh, that's unfair! It's unfair that Buffalo didn't get a chance to come back." Now they want to change the rule. So they didn't want to change the rule when it was Brady and Buffalo.
Right.
But because it's Kansas City, now they want to change the rule.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know what it is about certain teams that they are ready to change rules, and it's bad calls when it's for that team.
Right.
But when it's another team, it's not a bad call.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the teams that are on the coasts.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you remember the Rams against New Orleans? The interference call that wasn't called. I mean, the Ram defender when this Rams, I think they ended up winning the Super Bowl, but the Ram defender hit the New Orleans player a good, excuse me, he hit him a good 1 second. I mean, on the review, you could see, and just hit him and knocked him before, the ball was a yard before the guy got there. They never called it. And, the Rams ended up winning.
Uncatchable because he's on the ground. He's not, so it's uncatchable.
So around, yeah, you can't catch.
I decked him, so it's uncatchable.
Yeah.
You can't call a penalty.
So, but you know, I mean, people were screaming about that one. I mean, that was so clear, so. I mean, that one was so egregious.
And I think, Eddie, where you and I are at.
But no, what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
But it was the Rams. Okay. It was Los Angeles. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny how certain teams.
Yeah.
Everybody screams, but if it's another team, you know, St. Tom Brady or in this area, of course, you know, it's Jalen, OU. Yeah. He came to OU and Alabama. Yeah. You know, those two teams. Everybody loves Jalen Hurts. He's just this wonderful guy. He's this, and this. So everybody thinks Jalen should have been able to win this Super Bowl, you know. Listen, I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great guy. I mean, I'm very happy the way his career has turned out.
Everybody knows. A fine young man.
I
very
was supporting him all the way through. I thought the way things happened in Alabama were not the best, but it worked out well for him. I think
he was the runner-up Heisman Trophy.
Right, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah,
and so no, I wish him well. He's not done.
You know what really was the difference? After halftime, the Kansas City defense shut down Philly's offense. Yeah, Jalen, they shut him down. They shut the receivers down. Well, shut the run game down. They just did. They shut them down.
Kansas City's offense picked it up too. Remember, they were behind. Remember, they were behind by 10 points.
Right. Yeah, they came back. Right. So there's that. But Philly never punted in the first half. They just were that dominant. I was impressed that Kansas City stayed in the game in the first half at halftime. But in the second half, they shut Philly down.
Yep.
So good coaching, good adjustment. So that's where I'm at. I think, Eddie, on calls, there's always some things that are going to be a certain art to officiating. Kind of like baseball, picking the strike zone. As long as you call it consistent throughout the game on both sides, call balls and strikes the same, call holding the same, call neutral zone the same. People then can adjust, but a player can't adjust to a moving standard.
Yeah.
I hate seeing makeup penalty calls. I missed this one, so I'm going to penalize some other schmuck who doesn't deserve it to make up.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, for full disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay. I was actually rooting for San Francisco to win the whole deal.
Okay.
I really was. You can ask my wife. Yeah.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm saying in that championship game against Philly.
Oh, yeah. I was rooting for San Francisco to go all the way, beat the Chiefs, the whole deal.
I mean, Purdy's such an all-American boy. How can you not root for him?
I actually wanted him to win it for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the most maligned person in the NFL. I think the way he has been treated is just wrong.
And that's to take nothing away from the great job that Purdy has done.
Oh, no. Purdy's done a great job. No, I agree. But no, I think he did a fantastic job. I just think that sometimes there's when people get this thing in their minds against somebody, you know, and they just, in the sports media, for some reason, I don't know if it's because Jimmy Garoppolo is the handsomest guy alive. I mean, I will say that as a man, a jealous man, by the way. My wife just thinks the guy is just, and I have to agree with her. I mean, you know, I said, God, you know, why'd you make this guy this good looking? You know, look at the rest of us, you know, but
he won't say it. But I saw pictures of you back in the 70s. You're built like a god. I mean, you're big, powerful.
I was skinny. I weighed 170 pounds.
But you were well built. And that's, see, he's not insecure about his wife.
Well, yeah, that was then, this is now. Let's just put it out. But anyway, just in general, but Garoppolo to me has just a wonderful personality, and he's handled him. What really gets me is the way he has handled himself through the whole season with so much negativity. They were trying to find somebody else to take him. They wouldn't take him. He was on the bench for the beginning of the season. They took one rookie, the first rookie, and started him over him. He didn't complain. He sat there on the bench, and when they needed him to step up, and he's the one that took him to the point until he got injured. He got a shoulder injury, and then finally here comes Purdy, and then Purdy came in. So I don't think it's all Purdy, because I think San Francisco just had a great team.
Well, McCaffrey,
when they got him, that just took him another step.
McCaffrey's amazing.
Yeah. So I think had Purdy not been injured, now I have to say he really didn't look good up until the point where he did get injured, but he could have come back. I mean, of course, it's his first NFC championship. It might have been a big hurdle.
I think he was competing in the game until he got hurt.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was a serious injury, we find out now.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it was. Can you imagine three quarterbacks, and they all had serious injuries?
Yeah.
Season-ending injuries?
Yeah.
3 of them.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
And I gotta say, I don't think you're gonna see on the roster next year both Garoppolo and Purdy.
No, Garoppolo, I think, is already there. I think Tampa Bay is going to pick him up.
And
or New Orleans, one of the two, Tampa Bay or New Orleans.
And that's a gift. I would not, given my convictions, my philosophy of life, worldview, I would not want to be stuck in a franchise like San Francisco.
No, you shouldn't be.
So God, they'll eat you alive,
Yeah.
Because the rules are so crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so thankful. My oldest son, who works for New York, big global publishing firm, gets to stay working out of his Berry Hill home because the office politics, if nothing else, can eat you alive. I've seen a lot of guys, the women in the office don't like you, they will take you down over whatever charges they can come up with.
I apologize to all of you ladies out there.
Well, I've seen it happen.
No, I know.
I mean, my daughter's told me stories.
Oh no, listen, I know that's who's reaping that right now. Our favorite CNN anchor, the one who had the noose around his neck, Juicy Smollett.
Yeah, no, and
Jesse Smollett.
Who's their guy? The black guy that gay guy showed up drunk on New Year's Eve a few years back.
Juicy Smollett.
What's his real name?
I just said Jesse Smollett.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Jesse Smollett is his name.
Yeah, I'm not talking about him.
That's who it is. He was in that one that was drunk on New Year's Eve. It's the same guy.
Okay,
they don't have that many black people on CNN. He is their black guy.
Okay, you're calling him Jesse Smollett.
But Juicy Smollett is what Dave Chappelle called him. On this routine he did. He tells us it's the funniest thing about this famous French actor Juicy Smollett. Yeah. He does this whole routine, which is really crazy funny. But anyway, his name's Jesse Smollett.
Okay.
And, but anyway, he's gotten into it now. They moved him from the evening, program that he had his own evening show, and they moved him to a morning show with these 2 ladies.
Yeah.
And now he got into a whole lot of trouble.
Don Lemon is who we're talking about.
Oh, you're right. It is Don Lemon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, spank you, hit me.
That's fine. Hey, Juicy Smollett might be just not the worst.
That's right. He's an actor. He's the actor. Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's
Mayor Copa, Mayor Maxima Copa.
That's right.
You're right. It's Don Lemons.
How
is that I can't get the 2 of them?
I know. Well,
it's Don Lemons. You're
birds
right.
of a feather,
I'm glad you looked it up. I'm sure people at home are.
Okay. So what did he say about the South Carolina governor?
Oh, she was past her prime.
Yeah, exactly.
He was talking about a woman's prime age.
Yeah, and he says prime is in your 30s, 20s and 30s, or maybe 40s.
Well, I think he said 25 to 40.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Now, keep in mind,
I'm afraid to say anything now after I screwed up so bad.
Constitution,
Juicy Smollett,
which was written 200 and some years ago when the lifespan of a person was much shorter. They still said you can't even be president unless you're at least 35.
35, right.
Okay? So it's the funniest thing. And somebody this morning said, imagine if he had called Hillary Clinton past her prime.
Oh, yeah.
They would have hung him.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So now, yeah. So.
And I mean, the liberals would have.
He, speaking of prime, I think he's past his. I think he's on his way out. Yeah. I think they moved him from the evening show to the morning show.
And the morning show is where he screwed up.
To the door.
Yeah.
To the door. I said the dough.
Yeah.
My Philadelphia hood language is going to the dough.
Yeah.
To the door. He's on his way out. Yeah. Don, I start to say Jesse again. Don is on his way out. But, yeah.
And Don is the one who showed up drunk for their New Year's Eve thing.
Yeah, right,
I mean, it just, CNN is so pathetic. And what is it about the left that you really aren't voting for the person? You're voting for the machine. I mean Fetterman. I mean Biden. And people that don't even campaign, and yet the machine puts them in. You know, you got lousy, pathetic news anchors, and they're propped up, even though their ratings are crap.
Yeah.
You know, and
you heard the latest news on Fetterman. He's now in the hospital. Mm-hmm. He's in a rehab center because he's basically can't function.
Yeah, they went in a suspected clinical depression. Now, I have to say...
That's what they say.
Well, that's what, when it first went in, and maybe that's the way you get people to feel sorry for yourself. You know, Pat Campbell had me about a year before he died, had me in the show right after he came back from his surgery, brain surgery. And we were talking about some other things. He says, you know, Dave, I know you deal in mental health advocacy and stuff. He says, what's going on with me? I'm freaking out. I'm at IHOP and they drop some plates and I'm embarrassed and so he's wondering, you know, where's his mental health at? And fortunately, you know, I was able to tell him my dad had to have a third of his brain amputated. And I said, Pat, this is transitional. This is brain trauma caused readjustment. It's not to be confused with a chemical imbalance kind of thing.
Yeah. Back to Fetterman.
Yeah.
But the real issue is we told you so.
Yeah.
And what I see happening is what happened in Missouri with the governor, not the governor, it was the senator, what is the lady's name? She took her husband. Her husband was the senator. He died, and his wife took his place.
Yeah, forget it.
And it took years to get her out of there. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what's going to happen. His wife is going to end up becoming the next senator from Pennsylvania. And she is really, I mean, she's a piece of work. She is a mean lady. Let me just put it that way. And we'll see how this all plays out. But I think John Fetterman is done.
You're talking about Claire McCaskill.
Claire McCaskill, right?
Yeah,
right.
Her husband had been sick. And here's the thing, you know it's a machine when they start, what do you call it, divine right of kings, you know, where it becomes owned by a family.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes like when Hubert Humphrey died, they let his wife finish out his term. Well, he was so beloved in that, and it was just a short term. Let her finish it off. They knew she wasn't going to run, you know, but this is to keep the dynasty, to keep the right people paid off. Yeah, I said it. You know, this is what I suspect.
Oh, no, I agree with you. But see, there's a difference here, though, Dave. Mm-hmm. See, on the Hubert Humphrey case, on the McCaskill case, there's even a difference there, and that is that in those cases, they did not foresee that they were going to die.
Yeah.
That Claire was going to take the place, that Mrs. Humphrey was going to end up taking his place.
Yeah.
In this case, they knew that John Fetterman was not going to go far into his term.
Yeah.
They knew that from
Yeah, they knew they weren't going to get 100% from him ever.
Well, right. And they knew he wasn't going to finish his term. I guarantee you they knew that. His medical condition was not. And that lying doctor, do you remember there was a doctor, they had a doctor give him a physical. He said, oh, he's A-okay, he's fine. Lying rascal. Okay. So, everything about Fetterman from start to finish was essentially a lie. And the people of Pennsylvania just bought into it. This is what you run into when you get, not an uninformed, but a lethargic, a voting public that's asleep. They're asleep.
I have to say, I've been following Pennsylvania politics last 20 years, and it's the Philadelphia Election Board, because they'll wait till everybody else votes and the Republicans will be winning, and they'll have just enough ballots in Philadelphia to take it. I watched them do it to Rick Santorum in his Senate run for re-election. I watched, the conservative would win 14 out of 18 congressional districts.
How do we stop it? How do we stop it?
Yeah, that's it.
Do you have an answer? Do you know? How do we stop it?
If the right had been doing it and you had an FBI under the left, they would come in with a federal investigation.
Right.
And that's really what's needed. The same way we burden the southern states with all of these voting safeguard things where they can't do anything, change the law without the federal government coming.
Now, I am heartened to an extent. Last night I saw Ronna McDaniel on one of the programs. I can't remember which one. It was probably Rob Carson.
Okay.
But we are now, the Republican, when I say we, Republicans, are now going to start ballot harvesting.
Yeah, Trump has actually signaled that too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
whatever
say,
the rules are, we're going to play by the same
rules. Yeah, you can't lick them, join them. I mean, if they're you want to play that way? Okay, we will play it.
And that's always been Trump, right?
Yeah.
Because the Democrats are going to dish it, Trump's I'll dish it back.
I don't know if I ever told this story. I don't know. Remind me if I've told this story. I don't think I did. I think I've wanted to tell it for a long time because I've had people criticize me in the past for this.
Yeah.
And it's the theory of a fair fight. Okay. When I was a kid, I moved from New Mexico to Philadelphia. And so I was about 11 years old when I got there. So I learned that you never start a fight, right? So I remember, for example, a kid, we were arguing about some marbles. So we couldn't fight in school, so we waited till after school. Well, I didn't. I was trying to just go home, and the guy kept taunting me, kept after me, and I ignored it, and I got on my bike, and I was proud of my new bicycle. I had this nice bicycle my parents had just bought me, and I get on my bike, I ride, and the guy comes up, and he kicks my bicycle. And, oh, why'd you want to do that?
Poke the bear.
He saw the look in my eyes, and I jumped off my bike. He turned around to run, and I caught him and beat the pulp out of him. Another time, I'd have kids come start a fight, hit me, do something, and I'd fight back.
You haven't told this story on air.
All right. But so I get to Philadelphia, and so we're at the swimming pool in another part of town. Okay. And as we know, we have gangs in turf in Philadelphia. So we happen to be in this other part of town. I wasn't familiar yet how it worked. So a friend of mine decided to go across the street and get some cookies, and he decides he's going to give these cookies out, or he shared them with somebody, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to get these cookies. So I was trying to get these cookies, and so some guy next to me says, "Hey, who are you pushing?" I said, "What? I didn't even know you were there." He said, "Oh, yeah? Well, you pushed me." I mean, so the guy wanted to start a fight.
Sure he did.
So.
And he wanted to blame you.
Next, I said, well, that's my friend. I don't care who it is. You pushed me. Basically, I realized,
Yep.
So the guy, decides we're going to get, he's ready. He's already ready to fight. I said, oh, great. Okay. So we start fighting. I land a couple of great punches, you know, basically hit him in his nose, his eyes, you know, guys basically beat up. Next thing I know, I hear this word cut. Here comes like a 14-year-old kid who's like 6 feet tall, takes his place. So here's me. Nobody explained to me that in Philadelphia, you have to yell the word fair one if you want a fair fight. So nobody ever said fair one. If I had known, if I had said fair one, then the guy wouldn't have been able to cut. It's the weirdest thing. I mean,
So there were rules.
There were rules, but we had no rules.
So they were doing tag team, but you were up against
exactly
Battle Royal.
Right. And so next thing I know, I'm fighting a 14-year-old Muhammad Ali, and he boom, 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 you know, the fight's over. Well, me, not because I got hit or because but because I didn't have anybody to cut for me.
Yeah.
My feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
So I start crying. I must have still been 11, I guess. I don't think I was 12 yet. But anyway, so I start crying because nobody took up for me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're that age, it's funny. I don't know if you guys can understand. I wasn't crying because of physical pain or injury. I was crying because this guy had a 14-year-old. Yeah. The guy was already like 12 years old. He was already older and he was bigger than me. But all of a sudden now, here comes a 6-foot 14-year-old against me. I was probably about 5'6" or something. Maybe 5'5". I was pretty short when I was kid. But anyway, this big guy comes in and he's dancing and boom, boom. And I was totally outclassed. He might have been a Golden Glove.
Oh my God. Well, you were outsized.
Yeah. So anyway, but I had no one to take up for me. But what I'm getting at, okay, here's what I'm getting at, okay. Republicans have not called fair one. Okay. We've never called fair one. And Democrats are going to continue to fight dirty. Street fight. It's basically a street fight is what we've got right now. And the Democrats are going to bend the rules, break the rules, just all out, just fight.
Right.
Whereas Republicans are still trying to fight the way they're always felt.
Yeah, they're shaming us by exploiting, for the right, many of us, our Christian convictions about our own conduct. Is it pleasing to God? And that they don't care about their own, that, you know, whether they're pleasing God or, but they're going to call you on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They have no rules to follow.
But they want to follow your church rules.
They call us hypocrites. They want to call us hypocrites because if we don't follow our rules. Yeah, that is funny. And so we are sitting there following rules that we've given ourselves, but allow them to break all the time.
Yeah.
And that's one reason that Republicans do not support Donald Trump. So many Republicans don't want to support Trump because we are bound by these rules that we have put upon ourselves that we don't hold for the others. I never hear a Republican or Christian condemning or criticizing a Democrat for any of their bad behavior.
Right.
Do you?
Right.
I never hear him talking about anything that the Democrats are doing, but man, Trump, he curses, he does this, he does this, he does this, he talks bad. I mean, when you turn the radio or TV on, the Democrats are continually talking bad about us.
In 2012, Michelle Bachmann running for president in Iowa. Of course, they're telling me things. Her husband, their family owns a farm, her husband's family. And they criticized her candidacy because her husband's family took some kind of a government subsidy that she as a congresswoman voted against. They say, you're against that. How hypocritical are you? I'm like, no. If it's a government program, it isn't just for the left. It's for everybody. But that's how they want to demagogue it.
Right.
And shame people on the right for just saying, hey, equal access. Now, can I say something about your bullying?
Hold that thought.
Okay.
But it's exactly right. It's like when my son was like, in the 7th grade, 7th or 8th grade, he came home one day. He says, Dad, they gave me this piece of paper and they want to know what race I am. I said, oh, that's a good question. I said, you're whatever race is going to open the door the widest or get you the farthest today. Tomorrow we'll reevaluate.
There you go.
And the thing is, if they make the rule, then we're going to go by their rules.
Yeah. Now, for those who haven't met your son, he's dark complected, but only 1/4 black.
No, my son's actually is white with blue eyes.
Okay, that one. Your kids all have a different.
No, they're all
pretty much the same.
Yeah,
I've seen them at different pictures of them at different stages.
Yeah.
So anyway.
What I think you saw is my granddaughter. I have an adopted granddaughter that's extended. But
that's typical, isn't it? Though.
Yeah.
When you have that, because you don't know. I mean,
no, you don't. Oh, no. But see, they're only quarter black, and for people that are into genealogy or breeding, I guess is a crass term, but anyway, you can if you start breeding or mixing, I guess, races or animals, and you start with dark and light. What happens? The dark will eventually go out.
Well,
it will always gravitate to the light, and eventually the black will go out. You'll lose the black.
But initially, the next generation, it is the dominant.
Well, it looks dominant.
Right.
It's like, for example, if you take black paint and white paint and pour it in together, you're going to end up with a, it's still going to look darker.
Right.
Just because the darker is darker than the light.
Right.
But eventually it's going to end up going lighter and lighter. But but genetically, in genetics, it's just been shown for some reason everything gravitates to the white. And it's funny because even the black Muslims, the black or Nation of Islam, their whole theory is that this evil scientist, Yaqub or Jacob was actually this evil scientist, the Jacob of the Bible, but they call him Yaqub. He was some scientist, some evil scientist, which is some weird doctor. But anyway, that he started this. He started breeding on an island. He took these several thousand people and he started breeding the white race. And he created the white race. And that white race then he created to dominate the rest of the people.
Is that what Farrakhan teaches?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
I want to talk about the bullying. I lived in a small rural part of Minnesota, a small town. My cousins lived in the Twin Cities area. I remember visiting one time, and my 15-year-old cousin told me about an incident with his younger brother, 4 years younger, or 5, that he saw him getting picked on by some bullies in the neighborhood. So the older cousin stepped in and kind of rescued him, right? Well, that created a bigger problem because the younger cousin got a very cocky mouth and started mouthing off to kids because he's like, if my big brother's around,
Right.
So big brother realizes this really quick, and he just walks in the house as soon as, somebody takes offense at this young kid mouthing off. And he waits till his younger brother gets a couple of punches, and then he comes out.
Yeah.
And he says, all right, I let you have 2 punches, get out of here. Yeah. He turns to his brother, he says, I watch you mouth off. You're not going to exploit me and my protection.
Right.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But back to the original thought.
Yeah, what was that?
The original thought was there is no such thing as a fair fight.
Right.
With a dirty
adversary. The
The
left says to us, religious right says, you fight by your standards, we'll fight by our standards, which are none.
Right. And we will use your standards against you. We will defeat you using your own standards.
Exploiting your own
standards. Yeah.
So let me ask this. You're fighting in a war against a nation that's violating all the Geneva Conventions.
Vietnam.
Yeah. And what do?
You throw the Geneva Conventions out. The Geneva Conventions weren't there originally.
Right.
The Geneva Conventions are probably the beginning of the fall of
the West.
The West.
Yeah.
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 Vietnam was an example. It started with France. Right. Remember, the French originally fought in Vietnam. They were the first ones that were driven out.
Well, it was a French colony, French Indochina.
Right. And when they were driven out, and then for some reason we ended up getting involved in that whole mess.
Yeah.
And we observed the 36th parallel or whatever that, 36th parallel.
Yeah.
And the DMZ and all of that stuff. We would not go beyond that. In fact, it goes beyond it. World War II, remember Patton and MacArthur, they wanted to meet in Moscow. You remember? Yeah. MacArthur said, I'll come from the West and, the East, and you come from the West, right, and we'll meet in Moscow. We're not done. And then Eisenhower said, nope, we're going to stop here and we're going to sit down and we're going to cut up Berlin and Germany and da-da-da. And here we are today. And we see, for some reason, and listen, I don't understand either. I still don't understand. One of these days we will know when we get to the other side, God, all things will be made known to us. Okay. But why in the Old Testament, God allowed Israel, not only allowed, but basically commanded them to go in and annihilate entire civilizations. But all of a sudden, in our modern world, we now go in and nation build and rehabilitate civilizations, even though the enemy still lives within many of those.
Yeah,
particularly in the Middle East, we have that now.
Yeah, we fought 2 Gulf Wars against Iraq, and we screwed up both of them. The first one, Colin Powell actually prevailed and said, we got to stop this killing on this road out of Kuwait, because we had them on the run. Schwarzkopf was just annihilating the Republican Guard. And we left them standing. We let them go back to Baghdad. Well, then all of a sudden Bush Jr. becomes president, and he goes way beyond taking down what Colin Powell didn't allow under his dad. And then we go to this nation building, and I think that's always where we screw up, is we become an occupying force, and we impose our Western values on a culture that says that's not who we are.
In Germany, what we did after the war, we basically sent flyers to every town and said, we're going house to house. If we find any weapon, we have 6 days to take any weapon that you have in your house and bring it out into the streets, and we will dispose of it. If you're caught with any weapon, including knives, over 6 inches, you will be executed. Executed.
Wow.
And so what they did, they went house, they found somebody that had a knife over 6 inches or a gun in their house, boom, they executed them. That's what we did. Yeah. We did that.
No, we were an occupying force.
We were an occupying force.
And they were
that was under the Marshall Plan.
Enemy command.
That was the Marshall Plan. And we went through, and it brought stability, and the Germans hated us at first. They didn't like it. But as they saw that we brought stability and we helped them rebuild, I mean, they were poor as church mice. It was really poor. And you still had some subversive forces there.
Thank you.
But it helped us. We were able to root them out because we were brutal. I mean, we had people that knew how to treat an enemy force and subversive forces still there.
I'm so glad you're saying
We knew how to deal with it, and we dealt with it.
Yeah.
Now we don't, we just don't know how to do it anymore.
And here's the thing, Eddie. Now, I'm, 10 years younger than you, roughly?
Probably, yeah.
And, what I was taught a very clean, very sanitized version of the quick in and out World War II. And everybody complained we still have forces in Afghanistan, We said, listen, we still have forces in Germany from World War II.
France kicked us out, but yeah, Germany, we're still there.
Right. But there was still, look, I do remember in the late 60s, early 70s, we're still finding these Japanese pilots, enemy combatants in these little islands. In the middle of nowhere, they still think they're at war. Yeah. And they finally would surrender 30 years after the war.
I think 1974 that they found the last one.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
30 some years later.
Because they thought, their emperor was God.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, and folks, I understand, Eddie's mother grew up in this Nazi occupation. Your mother was getting birthday gifts from Hitler. Eddie knows what he's talking about.
It wasn't occupation. That was it. The Americans occupied.
Right. Yeah.
Nazis,
I'm sorry.
actually.
But his mother, who still lives with him, and his wife, this is all things she lived through.
Yeah. She loved Hitler. She thought Hitler was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
She thought everybody as a little girl. Like you said, he would give she and her brother Christmas presents and birthday presents because her mom was a widow. My mother's father died when she was 12, and her brother was only 9 when their dad died. And so she, Hitler was like their daddy, kind of like Joe Biden wants to be to poor black people and immigrants and all. He wants to be Daddy Joe.
So when Eddie talks about this stuff, he knows what he's talking about. And even my own public school education on this, it wasn't as clean. There are occupying forces. And I do believe that, yes, if they're fighting with mustard gas, by God, you got to take the fight to them with mustard gas. And we've just really tied our own hands.
Yeah, we have, and the Republicans need to learn that lesson. And I think maybe they have, and the person that has taught them how to do that is Donald Trump.
The Trump political doctrine. And
I go back to the first summer after Donald Trump was inaugurated, the Shakespeare in the Park. I can never shake that image where they did Julius Caesar. And they did Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was Donald Trump.
Oh, an effigy, yeah.
And the Senate turned on him and stabbed him. Yeah. And Brutus. They did the whole thing, but it was Trump and those around him stabbing him. And this is what I see. I actually saw it back then. I saw it as prophetic. Yes. I saw it back then. I said, it's crazy. Everybody's upset about this. Why would it? How can they do that? But I honestly saw it as prophetic of what was going to happen. And this is what has happened, that those closest to him in the Republican Party, and Brutus would have to be Mike Pence. That was the last straw of stabbing him. But everybody else, all of the people around him, all of the people, and then those so-called Republican supporters, all of the so-called Trump people that have now jumped ship, and now it's DeSantis, it's you name them, it's what's her name?
Well, Nikki
Haley, whoever.
She's
really not ready for prime time. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you announce what she did this week?
Yeah, she just. Let me finish the thought, and then we can. But anyway, but you've got all these people that have now turned on Donald Trump, who really is the only thing saving us or bringing us to the point we were and are to give us a vision of what we can be. If it hadn't been for those 4 years, we wouldn't realize how bad it is under Joe Biden. Right? We would be like the frog in boiling water because we would have continued the Obama years into the Hillary years and just this gradual drift into worse and worse and worse. And so somehow I just urge you for us to get that back. I don't know if Donald's going to win again or not. I hope he does. I hope he gets one more chance to take us to another step, and then whoever takes up from there will continue that, and we do not allow the negative forces to win. I just don't think we can do that, or we might as well just give it up. And I'm just going to tell you, we might as well give it up. Okay, so as far as Nikki Haley announced this last week. Was it this week or the week before?
Yeah, it was this week.
It was this week. She announced that she is officially running for president of the United States. She's the first person to officially announce her candidacy.
Well, Trump already did.
I'm talking about other than Trump.
Yeah, okay.
Other than Trump.
Yeah.
She's the first person to, other than that, to announce her candidacy for presidency.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, this is again a classic case where you're talking about somebody that Trump brought into his administration, high level UN ambassador, and then as she went out the door, actually it was after she resigned, well before his term ended, but then turned on him to the media in January 6th. Now, I'm going to be careful on that because I'd have to get the full context of whatever she had to say. You don't let the media define for you. But as far as DeSantis goes, you know what? DeSantis isn't bashing Trump. DeSantis hasn't made himself.
Right.
And quite honestly, I want the Trump doctrine of how you fight a political battle. I want that adopted as the standard. And I want the policies of the Trump-Reagan policies, because they're very much alike. That's really what I'm advancing. And whether Trump is that vehicle again, I don't have to decide that today. I don't have to decide that for another year. So if people are tearing apart the movement, criticizing, if they're just causing dissension, division, I don't have time for them.
Right.
No,
I agree. I would like to see him get one more term, not necessarily just because I want him to be president, but for him to have 4 more years to show the way for whoever would take his place. 4 years was 4 years of combat. And it's going to be another 4 years, but he laid the groundwork for the first 4 years, and this next 4 years, I think he can have. The word apprentice is kind of a little much in keeping with the show he used to have, but almost to show the way for an apprentice to follow his steps after. And I think Ron DeSantis would be a good one. Yeah, and I think if Ron would quell the discussion of him running, he could put himself in a better position personally to have Trump be behind him full on. He could be Trump's guy. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing we saw from the show The Apprentice, and just knowing Donald Trump, he values loyalty above everything else. He's a very loyal guy.
He is.
He's loyal to those who he's loyal to, and he's loyal to those who are loyal to him. And if you are disloyal to him, he will get you. He disrespects disloyalty above anything.
Right.
And I think, and I have to say, I think disloyalty is a real test of the fabric of a person.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think what we saw 8 years ago or 7 years ago into that 4-year term, we learned so much by the way in which they took Trump out that you now have a Congress under Republican control that's ready for a fight. And they've showed it. And I think they've changed. I think McCarthy has had a wake-up call.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, on the Senate side, McConnell is a big problem.
Yeah, he's got to go.
Now, his wife was a Brutus. You know, Elaine Chao was one of his 2 cabinet secretaries who invoked a 25th Amendment removal. And when she got nowhere, both her and Betsy DeVos resigned immediately in disgrace. They were traitors. And I was so pleased, you know, Mark Wayne Mullen, our latest U.S. Senator, sat in here, you know, and answered your questions. He followed up on some questions, and he said in an email to you, or text, he said, McConnell's out of touch. He's past his time. He needs to go. Mm-hmm. I've called for Marshall Blackburn to step up and run. I know Senator Scott of Florida has tried and wasn't able to oust him. But this is our problem.
No, I agree totally. And he has 2 years left now.
Yeah.
For the next election.
Yeah, every 2 years we have this vote.
The Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he needs to go. He has really shown his cards this time, and he had Trump support him. I mean, you talk about a case of disloyalty. Mm-hmm. Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, there's a whole number of them.
Oh, yeah.
That are just snakes. I mean, you talk about people that would just stab you in the back to your face. You know, they'll hug you in front, hey, and then stab you in the back this way, you know, that kind of way.
Something unique. In Oklahoma, we have primary, partisan primaries where we select our nominee for our party. In Utah, I think it's still this way, is their state convention selects their nominee. Yeah. Mike Lee became the Republican U.S. Senator from Utah because he won at the convention and got they actually ousted the Republican incumbent for him. That's where he lost. He was done. And I don't know if they're still that way in Utah. If they
I think it is. And they somehow got a governor who is a really a rhino.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's bad news.
What I want to say is Romney went to that convention last year and was booed and heckled terribly.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, when's Romney up for re-election again? Is it coming up?
No, it's he's got 4 more years. I think it's not. I don't think it's in the next one. It's the.
So he was elected in 18, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. 18. So it would be 24. Yeah, that's him and McConnell will be 24.
That would be the shot across the bow.
That will be
during the convention, the primary season, which, by the way, is changing greatly.
Yeah.
Iowa just got booted by the Democrats. Yeah. South Carolina is going to be first. Why? Because they turned red as a state.
You know, I wonder though. You know, McConnell. I don't know if you remember this, but see, I think this might have something to do with it. When McConnell and his wife, do you remember when they went out to eat and the people were heckling them in the restaurant?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're that weak that affected them, that they thought more highly of themselves and being able to go out in public and eat without being disturbed than standing up for principle.
Well, yeah, they're creatures of D.C. They're Beltway people. You know, just like Liz Cheney.
Oh.
You know, she represented Wyoming, but she grew up in the Beltway.
May she not rest in peace.
You know. So anyway, and the primary season is, we're 11 months away from it. The Republicans are still going to begin in Iowa, but Democrats aren't going to.
Forget them. Who cares?
Yeah. So you're going to hear things are changing. It's something I follow.
Hey, let's do a couple of quick hits. The balloons, it turned out balloons, but beyond the balloon, which we rested last week, shot it down finally as it traversed the entire nation and took all the pictures it needed to and got all the information China needed. But since then, we've had three more, I guess, since then that were shot down.
Yeah, we don't know what to call them.
But we don't know. They're UFOs.
Yes.
Basically, unidentified flying objects. And apparently they were shot down, and I guess they were totally obliterated, whatever they were. Now they're trying to say may have been private balloons by just private people throwing them up there. So,
well, one was said to be cylindrical in shape, another hexagonal in shape. And that, they must not be trying too hard to find them, because my understanding is they were shot down. I think one was shot down right on the border on Lake Huron.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, something's not right.
No, we're not getting the truth on this. And I agree with you. The term unidentified flying object does not mean it's some space alien.
Right.
It means it hasn't been officially publicly identified.
Right.
It means you and I don't know what that is. That doesn't mean that the Chinese don't know or Biden doesn't know.
Right. And speaking of the Chinese, Biden yesterday seems to have gone out of his way to exonerate the Chinese. Mm-hmm. The last speech I heard, he really went out of the way to say, there's no reason to think that there was anything nefarious going on from the Chinese because of the balloon or these other objects. Mm-hmm. He has been assured by his good friend. Yeah. So, yeah.
His master.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So, hey, the train wreck, particularly the one in Palestine, Ohio, has caused a lot of consternation. For those that have been living under a rock, that don't know, a train derailed in Ohio, outside of a town, Palestine. We would call it Palestine, but they call it Palestine there. And it turned out that it had a few cars on it that had this noxious material on it. And this noxious material apparently exploded and ignited, and it's poisonous and noxious and got into the water and killed fish, killed frogs, animals, and is making humans sick.
Well,
and they quarantined a mile radius from the train derailment and told everybody else, you're okay if you live over a mile away. Mm-hmm. And FEMA now has said they're not going to, it's not a disaster area. They're not going to give anybody any money.
Today they changed course.
Oh, they did change. Okay,
today.
Good. Well, I guess enough public outcry.
It's politics.
Yeah, because, are you kidding me? The people had to pay for hotels, meals, and all of this because they've been uprooted, and you're going to tell them we're not paying you anything? It just doesn't fly. So I'm glad to hear that at least.
Yeah.
And Booty's Edge,
he's nowhere.
He's nowhere to be found. Yeah. He's busy still trying to deal with
he's trying to nurse his
DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
He's still trying to promote that somewhere.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, either that or he's on maternity leave still.
Okay. I got a slightly different report that these tankers were seeping into the groundwater, and then sometime after the initial accident, they decided the better way was to go ahead and ignite and blow up this material.
Burn it off.
Right. Which turned it into a toxic gas, which isn't even allowed under the Helsinki Accords.
Let's kill them all at once rather than over years.
Right. And which led to a bunch of poultry and small animal wildlife dying massively.
Yeah.
Folks who are raising chickens in their backyard, they're all dead in their cage. It wasn't some coyote got them, right? So, and this morning I listened to an interview of the mayor of the town. He says, look, our city water is fine because our pumps are way upstream in the watershed. They're not going to be affected. If you're a family or homeowner that has your own well, yeah, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, we will do our best to get you bottled water for the foreseeable future. And they said, and then another thing will be people, the lakes, rivers, any animals that are going to be fed off that, or people who use that water for irrigation. You got a problem there. So he only said the city water is fine, which I think it is upstream there. Now, as somebody who's done wells, my dad put a sand point in my parents' home. If it's a shallow well like that, you're basically getting seeping water runoff. That's a particular danger, more so than the super deep well that are hitting veins 100 feet under the ground. So it's a deal.
Yeah, but here's the thing that really irks me about the whole deal. It's like no matter what happens, everything that happens with this administration, the first thing they do is blame Trump. Mm-hmm. Buttigieg wants to blame Donald Trump. It was the Trump administration.
They blew up the tankers.
Well, you might as well have. They blamed them on a faulty infrastructure. They didn't take care of the train tracks.
It's not his job to take care of it.
No. And didn't you just get several $1 billion to do this?
Yes.
But what did you worry about? Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
That's what you spend it on.
Yes.
Making sure that the gay community can live peacefully, and advertising and job training and videos and you name it. All of these things instead of, I saw they had this film last night on Newsmax of a train coming and the tracks. Did you see that? Oh my goodness, Dave. These tracks were like, it was like a bad roller coaster. The Mad Mouse used to be in a carnival. I mean,
yeah.
And they were wobbly, and this train is going like 2 miles an hour trying to, go over this stuff. And I'm thinking, there is no way on earth I would want to drive a train over this. It's like a carnival ride at Disneyland or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And here's the real funny thing. It's in Ohio. Mm-hmm. Who comes from Ohio?
Well, I mean,
isn't that where Buttigieg is from?
Indiana.
Oh, he's next door. Okay.
Yeah, he's Gary, Indiana.
Okay, that's right. He's Indiana. Okay.
Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So got me again.
But you're right, though. The Traffic Safety Board, it's automatically triggered when you have a derailment. I mean, when I was 8 years old, the train derailed block from my house where the trestle goes across the Mississippi. And we lost a whole bunch of cars in there. And God, I'm down there about 10 minutes afterwards, and I come back later in the afternoon, and my God, they got a block cordoned off and all these TV, cruiser, and the feds are in there the same day. Whoever had the bright idea that we're going to make essentially a mustard gas kind of thing, Buttigieg, that's on you. Because that's the response decision.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the infrastructure should have been taken care of. I mean, that was a big thing that they've been talking about. Bridges, train tracks. In fact, they just gave this huge raise to the rail workers, just last year, right? Remember, they went on strike and they gave all this money. Somebody forgot to look at the train tracks that these rail workers were working on. Yeah. And, so but it just makes me so angry that every time something happens, they want to turn around and blame Trump. Did you ever once, in anything that happened with Donald Trump, by the way, not a whole lot happened, as I recall, with Donald Trump, but I didn't recall ever hearing the Trump administration one time turn around and blame Obama, who was there for 12 years. I don't remember them ever saying, oh, Obama should have done this, or Obama didn't do this, or they did this, or Bush, or so. No, but every time something happens with this crew, it's, oh, that was Trump's fault. Oh, that was Trump. That was Trump.
Yeah.
If Buttigieg does it, Jean-Pierre does it in those briefings. They cannot get Trump's name out of their mouths.
Oh yeah, you don't see them blaming Clinton for 9/11, the trade towers. You know, that was only 9 months,
Right.
less than 9 months
Right.
since he left office.
It was Bush's fault.
Right, yeah. So, you know, what I'm looking, and this is a Norfolk Southern, which I assume is probably an Eastern Railroad. They have 20,000 miles of tracks. Every road, I have some friends do maintenance for, Santa Fe, Burlington Northern, Santa Fe. You know, it's up to each railroad. And sometimes these railroads will license another railroad to use their tracks. But again, it's who owns the tracks. They're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And should Norfolk Southern have a rectal exam over their policies, standards, and keep it? Yeah, that happens every time. I mean, what happens when a plane crashes? Boeing gets a rectal exam.
Apparently, they never even showed up at the meetings that they were supposed to have. That's another thing people are really
So yeah, there's going to be some, tough questions to answer. Yeah. But Buttigieg, where is he? I mean, the buck's supposed to stop with him.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to take a quick break and, just to mention to people about, Integris Men's Health that, I go to. We've talked about it in the past. It used to be the Low T centers. Mm-hmm. Pat Campbell, my dear late departed friend, used to go, and he's the one that got me going there, and then I started, promoting them and start going there. Anyway, they've now changed to Integris Men's Health, but if you're a man, I'd say over 30, anybody over 30, you can go there, get tested. They don't just deal with the typical male enhancement stuff. No, it's just in general. When your testosterone goes down, your muscles start falling, deteriorating, and your fat starts growing, mm-hmm. and stuff turns to fat and flab and so forth. And it's not an end all. I mean, you still need to exercise. Trust me, it's not going to all of a sudden you're going to beat Charles Atlas or whoever the latest, mm-hmm. or Arnold Schwarzenegger. But they've done more. They've really helped me. I have blood clotting issues, and they help me when they do a 6-month exam where they test your blood and all these different factors and things you need. But they have different things that they advise you on and do, and they'll send reports to your doctors and everything like that. And so I can really commend them highly. I've been going now for about, and I'm going to say probably 10 years now, mm-hmm. 10 years. And I really enjoy going. Their staff is good, friendly, and there's a lot of guys that go. And soon they're going to have men and women's clinics. Mm-hmm. It's still men right now, but eventually they'll go to women's clinics too. But I hear a lot of these, Dave, where they're always talking about, and she'll like it too. That kind of stuff. Oh man, come on. But it's not about
Well,
that.
We're not refuting that.
Well, yeah, but it's not about that. There's so much more.
Yeah.
It's about just in general, your physical being, your health, your muscles.
Energy.
Yeah, your energy. That's the thing.
That was a big reason I decided I need to ask those questions.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, give them a call. You'll still find it under Low T in your phone book, or if you go online now, we don't have phone books anymore. So they haven't switched completely to Integris Online. It's still Low T of Tulsa. It's in Bixby, almost in Bixby. Mm-hmm. It's down at about 103rd Street. It's right behind, what's the pizza place?
Hideaway.
Hideaway. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's right behind Hideaway Pizza there off of South Memorial. So anyway, if you get a chance, check them out and tell them Eddie Huff sent you.
Can I tell you something?
Yes, sir.
I had to go in and see my doctor about everything checkup. And he gave me a warning out of nowhere. I think Integris will appreciate me saying this. He said, because I was dealing with insurance covering, different things. He says, my doctor said, Dave, be careful. Don't go buying anything claiming to be testosterone just from some unknown internet source. And here's why. He said, I've got 2 patients, both of them young guys in their 20s. They decided they wanted to juice it up, do the bulking up and the overdosing way beyond the levels of testosterone, they're indicated. He said, Dave, they are not producing any natural testosterone anymore. They are now totally dependent. He said, I don't know why, I don't know what, but I know they got their stuff off the internet. You got to be using a reputable source for things like this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what they test you every 6 months. They test your levels, your testosterone levels, also cholesterol and things like that. There's a full battery of tests. They do a blood test.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
If some guy comes and says, I want to compete for Mr. Universe, I really need my numbers not up between 300 and 800. I want to be like 1,800, 1,900. Are they going to help that guy to super juice? No. Because their ethics won't let
Right. Yeah, and they have doctors. They're doctor supervised. And,
because there are great health risks to having too much testosterone.
Oh, yeah. They'll get their pantsuit off of them.
Well,
Business.
I talked to a very affluent businessman. This was years ago, 15 years ago. And he told me, he says, I just got diagnosed with low testosterone. This is like in 06 or 07, 08. And he says, the good news is I'm going to live longer because having high testosterone has all kinds of risks, heart attack, stroke, things like that, high blood pressure and that. So I just wanted to give that warning to people who think they're going to go do their juicing somewhere else.
Yeah. They want to keep you in that level. Like you said, between 300 and 800. They want to keep you in there around 6.
Yeah.
Above 600 is optimal. But So if you get a chance, check it out. And,
start with them.
And it's a free initial checkup. So
can't be free.
No. Hey, that's good. Hey, moving right along, something that is kind of, mysterious to a lot of people. Dave and I, it's not so much because it happens every so often. It's cyclical, it seems, and that is, revivals. And there seems to be a real organic revival taking place at Asbury University there in Kentucky.
Yes.
And it's, for us, as I say, it's not a problem. Some Christians, a good friend of mine and a brother who I trust, he's a music artist, seems to have an issue with it. Some are having issues with it. They think it's a fake revival. Then you're going to have people on the other side who are non-believers that are going to just laugh at it. But listen, I never want to question anything that is a move of God.
Or might be.
Until it's not a move of God.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
Now, you want to, the greatest line Ronald Reagan ever said, his greatest line was, trust but verify.
There you go.
Trust but verify, right? And so I'm going to trust that this is a legitimate move of God, but we want to verify, right? We're not just going to go, I'm not going to drive for, 8 hours to Kentucky to get caught up into this. Because, and let me say this is something I always think of. People are driving all over, they're flying from all over the world now to go take part in this. Here's what I say. If it's a move of God, if it's a true revival, it'll get to you.
Oh, yeah. Real revival spreads.
Yeah. Just wait for it, pray for it, and it'll get to you. Okay. You don't have to think, oh, I'm going to miss out. I got to be a part of this. No, all you can do by going is ruin it. I mean, this is my opinion. Okay. You can just let it go over you. But I just want to say, if it's a move of God, you pray with it where you are and pray for it to reach your area and to revive where you are. And then let it get there and see it spread through. Yeah. Let the sparks fly over those miles, ignite through you and around you, and spread in your city, in your state, in your country. That's what I suggest. Yeah. That's just for what it's worth. Take it, go with it, or reject it. I don't care.
Yeah. I got two thoughts. And one, I'll quote the well-respected Rabbi Gamaliel, who told the Sanhedrin when they heard about this move of God happening at the temple, these disciples of Jesus are preaching and healings happening and people are repenting left and right, getting right with God. They wanted to crush it. They wanted us. And he said, be careful. We don't know that this isn't a move of God. And you don't want to kick against the pricks. Exactly. King James put it. Yeah. And he said, give them some space. So you know what? If you got questions, give it some space. Number one. Number two, we can't let it get exploited, get taken advantage of. There was a sorcerer named Simon. And when Peter came and laid hands on people, and they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and there was a great revival, great move of God in the early church, this sorcerer offered Peter money to lay hands on him and impart the spiritual gift to him because he thought he could make some money off of it. We've seen this. Eddie, you and I have seen exploitation of things, manufacturing of things. So we know, and your friend who told me, I don't want to name him, he's seen manufactured things. So I get why some people might be cynical, but cynicism can destroy you spiritually.
It can.
And now, as far as this college, because of the name Asbury, we associate it with the Methodists. And it is a Wesleyan holiness.
Yeah, I don't want to go on that. They don't need to know.
Right.
It just takes place.
Well, let me talk about the interdenominational aspect.
Right. Okay.
Because as a Pentecostal, the denomination that I've been a part of, for 10 years came out of.
Right, but people don't need to know about the denomination of this. I'm just saying,
but
we just want to talk about the movement and what's happening.
I understand it. A devout, traditional Catholic, Steve Bannon, he says, the music they're doing, he says, I'm more of a Gregorian chant guy. But he said, this is a move of God. This is the Holy Spirit at work. And what I'm saying is, let's not try to own it.
Right.
Let's not try to, don't be threatened by it just because it isn't in your denomination.
Right.
That's really where I'm trying to go here. Yeah. And let's all embrace it. It's fundamentally about repentance, about getting back in touch and fellowship with God. And you don't need to go to Wilshire, Kentucky to get right with God. In fact, yesterday, Debbie and I pulled it up on YouTube. We had our Chromecast, and we were watching it live on TV. That's something you couldn't do in the Azusa Street revivals of 120 years ago in L.A. So this is what I want to say. Get involved. Are you going to see some things there? Your question? Yeah, you probably will.
What's funny to me is it's like Tucker Tucker Carlson
Yes.
wanted to send a news crew there to film it and interview and everything. And they told him, we'd rather you didn't. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like they're trying to keep it down, to try to not advertise it, not make it a public spectacle, just let it happen. But then still, it's on YouTube. It's like you can't keep it. You can't keep it under wraps. Yeah. So, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. It's not working. They're not able to keep it quiet.
I understand what you don't want me to get into, and that's labeling it and that. The reason I brought it up, it's because one denomination can't claim ownership.
Oh, no, I understand.
Beautiful.
Right. Oh, no, I understand. No, that's not what I just didn't want to get off into the whole
church
thing.
history stuff.
I just want to, it's happening. Yeah. And I don't care if it was happening I would love to see it happening at a synagogue. I mean, that'd be really something.
Yeah.
But I don't care what it is, but it is happening. But, I want to go from that to the whole thing of the chosen. Okay, this is another issue. Yeah, this is another issue. Okay, so you've got this revival going on, and it's being questioned by certain Christian members, and then you've got the chosen, which is just reaching people everywhere, and then you've got these Christians again now all of a sudden starting to come out and question the show, The Chosen, which is nothing more than a depiction of the Gospels. And the reason they're questioning it is because a lot of the support, some of the filming is done in a studio in Utah owned by the Mormons, and the Catholics are supporting it, even though the director and the people behind it are evangelical Christians. But the actors, some are non-Christians, some are Catholics. The guy that plays Jesus is a devout Catholic. And so people have an issue with the guy playing Jesus being this devout Catholic who prays to the saints, things like this. Okay. All right. Here's my question. Okay. Have you seen Ben-Hur? Have you seen
Ten Commandments?
Ten Commandments. Have you seen King of Kings?
Yeah.
Any of those?
Jesus of Nazareth.
Any of those shows from the 50s and 60s?
Yeah.
Those were done by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. The first ones I
Jewish
mentioned
folks.
were Jewish. There's nothing Christian about them. They were done by Jews, okay? So, it doesn't matter who. I'm reminded of the passage in Luke, I can't remember the exact passage. I think it's Luke 7. If you get a concordance, go to your computer, you can find it. Anyway, the disciples came to Jesus and said, Lord, there's this group of people over here, they're preaching, they're casting out demons in your name, but they're not with us.
They're not part of our clique.
Yeah, they're not part of us. And Jesus asked, well, wait a minute, but so you're telling me they're doing it in my name? Yes. He said, well, are they preaching against us? No. He said, well, if they're not against us, they're for us.
Yeah.
And he said, whoever is not against us is for us. So basically, if it's true to the gospel, and I challenged this one person online who was so bent on attacking the chosen, and I asked him, can you produce one episode, one part of an episode, any line, anything that is heretical or goes against the scriptures? Crickets. Mm-hmm. Cannot do it. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if you can't find anything that's non-scriptural or anti-scriptural, now listen, this is an adaptation. They've put a lot in there to make it a story, but they've had to fill in the gaps because the Bible doesn't tell you what everybody, in other words, where they were sitting, how they were sitting, what did they look like, what were they eating for dinner, what was the furniture like, what time of day was it, all of these things.
it doesn't tell us those things, okay? So they fill in all of that kind of, what were they talking about when this happened, before it happened, after it happened? So they fill in those things. But as far as the actual meat of what was said scripturally and what happened scripturally, they're true to that. And so to me, as long as that is true to the word of God, I don't have a problem. I don't care who's doing it, okay? My wife and I, our first date, the first date I ever took my wife on back in 1974, excuse me, was the movie Godspell.
Ah, yeah.
Godspell was a Catholic production. It was actually a stage play. And
A musical.
it was a musical. And a Broadway musical, actually. And, I mean, you could have really cut it to shreds because it took place in New York City, and Jesus had his face painted like a clown. He had an afro that was like this big, wore bell bottoms. Basically, it was a bunch of hippies. It was just a bunch of hippies and that hung out in New York City and did all these things around the city. But it was a depiction of the Gospel of Matthew done just in this inner city setting.
Yeah.
But it was totally true to the gospel. In fact, they quoted the scripture word for word. And still today, the songs, the message, everything is so powerful. It still speaks to me now.
There's some big hits out of it.
Yeah.
On
And
Top 40.
it's Vinny, it's interesting because the guy who played Jesus, Victor Garber, he's a big actor still. If you look him up, he was, I can't even think of all the shows he's been in. But you'd know him. I mean, he's on TV still today in a lot of things. He played Jesus. He's gay. Okay. Different ones are this and this. Nevertheless, the movie Godspell, the play Godspell, was very powerful. It spoke to a lot of people. People got saved through that show. God spoke through a donkey. He spoke through, in fact, if you look at Hebrews, you go through Hebrews 1, God at various times, in various ways, spoke through his prophets. Right? I mean, that's how Hebrews, the book of Hebrews begins that way. That's the first verse. God, who at sundry times and sundry ways spoke to through his prophets. That's how he spoke. And so for him to use something like The Chosen, for him to use the Asbury Revival, for him to use Godspell, even Jesus Christ Superstar, as messed up as it can be, parts of it. Okay? Man, you know, we have such, to me, here's the biggest issue I have with the people who attack, especially The Chosen, okay? There are such bigger issues to go after. The Grammy Awards with the satanic presentation, okay, that happened there. Just clear. It reminds me of backwards masking when everybody was focused on backwards masking. I said, first of all, why are you buying these records and why are you playing them backwards? There's enough stuff forwards that we can object to without having to play it backwards. Okay. So you are now worried about these issues when you've got, you know, children being mutilated, girls cutting their breasts, guys cutting their genitals off, and all of this stuff going on. You've got child pornography. You've got this, sex trafficking. You've got all of these issues, horrible issues that are taking place, slavery going on, sex slavery. You name it, the stuff going on in schools, the anti-Christian stuff, and you're worried about that. This is your issue? This is your issue? You think God is gonna give you the gold star or give you a crown because this is your issue? You're gagging at gnats and swallowing camels.
There you go. Yep.
And so I think we have much bigger issues to deal with than The Chosen and the Asbury Revival people. I think there's some bigger issues we can be dealing with.
I want to say something. It was my son a few months back was telling me, Dad, have you seen The Chosen? I'm like, what's that? And so if I didn't know until just a few months ago, or some of you don't, it's very unique. This production, they decided to go completely their own distribution chain. In other words, they put an app up on the Android App Store, the Apple App Store, and that it also says they're on Roku and Fire TV and Apple TV now. I'll have to check into that. But this way, you're not dependent on whether YouTube's going to take you down or that you're going to censor or shadow ban anything. So go to thechosen.tv and you can download, whatever way you want to stream it. But I want to say that so that people know, because, my son, who's a pastor, he just raves about it. It's so well done. Amazing production value. So, anyway, and the other thing I want to say, we've just seen, sadly, a lot of people, if they cannot get the real thing to happen, revival in their church, unfortunately, some people manufacture.
Yeah, they do. They do. And like you said, by their fruits you'll know them. And eventually it will manifest itself. We will know if this is a real revival or if it's not a revival. The same thing happened. Well, it's happened many, but at ORU in 1982 with Keith Green.
That was in 80.
It was in 82.
Okay.
The reason I know is because I was in Holland when it happened.
Okay.
And Keith Green came over right after.
Okay.
But anyway, Keith Green came and visited ORU. He was supposed to do, I think, one concert and ended up staying a week. And the kids just started repenting and coming forward, and it just spread. And it not only affected Keith, the kids at ORU, but afterwards he started doing these go concerts all over the country. Mm-hmm. And it just blew up, and it was all over and he joined with Youth with a Mission, and they started doing these and just recruiting all these kids into missions. So it's not new. It's happened. In Duquesne University, those darn Catholics, Duquesne University, this is where the Catholic Pentecostal movement began at Duquesne University in the 60s, late 60s. And that's the whole Catholic charismatic movement began, and that's what started the Jesus movement, because it spread west. It kept moving west, and then eventually hit Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, and that's where all of the hippies and everything got saved. The flower children got saved, and eventually moved down to Southern California, and all of the Christian movement. The Jesus People movement got started.
Yeah, because Jack Hayford was one who right away reached out to him with his Foursquare Church. And then, of course, Chuck Smith with Calvary Chapel. And that turned into a huge record label.
Which, by the way, speaking of that, there's going to be a preview screening of the new movie, and I can't think of it. It's a story of Chuck Smith and Calvary Chapel.
Wow.
And believe it or not, Kelsey Grammer is playing Chuck Smith.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's coming out, it's this week, but everybody that's seen it says it's great. You can go on YouTube and they have previews of it. It's the funniest. The clip they have is really funny, and Kelsey Grammer was just on one thing and he just started breaking into tears talking about this.
Yeah.
I think the name of the movie is Jesus Revolution. I think that's the name of it, Jesus Revolution. But to just think about Kelsey Grammer, is playing Chuck Smith in this. So it's a regular Hollywood production.
That's awesome.
And,
cause I tell you, Chuck Smith radically impacted Hollywood and the music industry.
Yeah. But here's what's funny. When you see this clip, how it all started, he was not, because his daughter brings Lonnie Frisbee, this hippie.
Yeah, I've heard about Lonnie.
Yeah, brings this hippie home. I'm not even going to tell you, but it's a funny thing. But he just doesn't treat him well. Let's just put that. He doesn't treat him well. So Chuck was brought into this through kind of kicking and screaming.
And, you know, that's something I got to say here that goes back to what's happening at Asbury University. God's going to use imperfect people. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm not going to get into Lonnie's issues, but I mean, all of us are imperfect people.
Oh, yeah.
And God, in His great wisdom, decides it's okay to use us.
Can you believe that? And when you think about it, a guy, first of all, with a name like Lonnie Frisbee.
Yeah.
And just as weird, he's just a totally freaked out hippie. Mm-hmm. And then that God used him to start that revival, which became Calvary Chapel, which has exploded into hundreds of thousands of young Christians. And the church I got saved at is called Jesus Chapel, which was founded by Ken Gullickson, who came out of Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa.
Oh, yeah.
And then, well, get this. So Ken then left El Paso and went to Sherman Oaks, California, and founded, guess what? The Vineyards.
Oh.
So that started the Vineyards, and so the Vineyards has then grown into this mass. It just goes on and on and on. Those of you that know the churches and know the churches, you'll know what we're talking about. Hey, but I wanna go from there to kind of another, and then we gotta wrap it up. But so it's just Christians, because you'll find people in the church who will have something to say about that.
Oh yeah,
okay?
they'll find something.
They're going to find something about, if
you look, you'll find.
The Asbury revival, that's not right. Chosen is not right. Oh, the Jesus Revolution was not right. This is not, always something. And Christians tend to do that, okay? I might have talked about this before, how Christians, we sing or used to sing the song, Onward Christian Soldiers. We're an army. We're a Christian army, but we're the only army that when our wounded come back from being wounded, instead of comforting and binding them up, we finish them off.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Can I say something else? The enemy, okay, the world cannot kill a revival, but the church can.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. We've got to be careful. We aren't killing it here. You can't kill it from without. It's from within. And so, we've just got to be careful with our cynicism. And again, starts with repentance. What is repentance? You and I have to change. God doesn't change. Right. We have to change. The people who badmouth things like this and try to, oftentimes it's because they just don't want to change.
Trust God.
Yeah.
And verify.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. In the Christian matters, it's prove all things, hold on to what is good. That's what the scriptural version is, trust but verify. Is prove all things, hold on to that which is good. Okay. And then I want to take it one more step, getting out of the Christian realm, and that goes to Republicans. Okay. Republicans are like Christians. We do the same thing. We eat our own. You take John Fetterman, you take, what's the guy out in California that was sleeping with Fang Fang, the congressman?
Oh, Swalwell.
You don't hear one Democrat saying anything negative about Swalwell.
No.
Not one Democrat had nerve enough to say one thing about Fetterman, that he was not fit for duty. Okay. Nobody says anything about any Democrat, but a Republican during the election season, how many Republicans said that Herschel Walker was not fit? How many said that Dr. Oz was not fit or not right? How many Republicans feel Donald Trump is not fit? We eat our own. We do not, and we're not talking about in the primary. I'm not even talking about just the primary. I'm talking about in the actual general election when you're going up against the Democrat who is far. I had people arguing with me on Facebook about how Dr. Oz or Herschel are not fit, and talking about how they can't vote for Dr. Oz because of this and this. When he's going up against John Fetterman. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? So Dr. Oz is not fit. So you want Fetterman, and these are people from Pennsylvania. And so but do you think Fetterman is a better choice? You're going to let Fetterman win because you don't think Oz meets your standard.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
think about it. The Monica Lewinsky scandal of nearly, almost 30 years ago. Right?
Wow. Can you believe that?
And if that had been, Bill Clinton had been a Republican president, he'd be gone.
Oh, he'd have been.
But because he's of the no morals political left, you heard, Rush Limbaugh talked about, some female activist said, wow, he's so important to our movement, we had a duty to provide those services to him.
The duty.
And this is the craziness of it. And so we have.
It's cult-like. That's cult-like.
Yeah.
Because you would have women in the cult that felt it was their duty to provide sexual services to the cult leader.
Yeah.
But that's what that sounds like.
And that's why I say about George Santos, for instance. Until they start holding the Democrats, Blumenthal, Clinton, Bush, Biden, Sleepy Joe, how many times have you embellished and are still embellishing? David. And yet you have idiots like Mitt Romney saying, you disgust me, Santos. The severe conservative.
Yeah.
So I'm just, Eddie, I think what we come up with is that the Trump doctrine
We've come to a full circle.
The Trump doctrine is we fight with the same rules that the other side fights with.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. We must beat them at their own game.
Yep.
That's our motto now. Beat them at their own game. In fact, I think we need to have T-shirts made.
All right.
You know where
Ballot
you get
harvesting. That's a new thing.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's finish with that. Yeah. What's her name? Romney McDaniel, the reelected chairman of the Republican National Committee. She has said this week that they are now going to adopt ballot harvesting. We're going to start adopting the same standards and rules that they do. So we're going to start ballot. We do it in some states. We're already doing it in some states. And,
Bob Jack's been doing it in Tulsa County. I'm sorry. Bob, come on, laugh at yourself.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, we're going to legally do it like they do it, and hopefully we will do it better. Mm-hmm. But we cannot wait and do like they do and wait until Election Day and hope people show up, and they already have us out. Voted by thousands of people.
Yeah, that and they, corrupt the counting machines on Election Day and all the things that we saw in Arizona, which is not over. I know the appeals court ruled against Carrie Lake, and but she's taken it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, good. Hopefully somebody will hear and say, time out, this has got to stop. She has a case here. I mean, listen, my thing is, if she has a case, somebody please hear the case. Yeah. Hear the case. Let her make the case. Yeah. Don't just say, no, we're not going to hear it.
So here's the call to every legislature in the nation. We have to statutorily put out a blueprint, a guideline. If corruption happens, how do you adjudicate it? How do you bring this case up? Because we basically, as a nation, put our head in the sand. All 50 states have, and not provided a clear roadmap when you have an allegation.
Well, what I don't understand is how, let's say in Pennsylvania, for example, okay, when the rules were clear, okay, on election rules, on the deadlines for when you had to end voting, how it was to be done and everything, and it was clearly violated, yet the courts say, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they created a catch-22. They said, you can't bring a case until the damage is done. And then when they waited till Election Day and then brought the case, they said, oh, well, it's too late. You had to bring it up beforehand. It's timid judges not wanting to take a stand.
Yeah, but see, then you might as well resign.
Yeah.
You're not a judge anymore.
Yeah, and this is why I think, And I am concerned about judges just making up law for the bench.
Sure.
But I think the legislatures, and I'm saying Oklahoma legislature, you gotta do this. You gotta put a roadmap in. One of the things that I told him, a couple years ago, in the last session is, you've got to convene the legislature on the Monday following the presidential elections. Because what did the Supreme Court say in Bush v. Gore? It says our Constitution gave the power to the legislatures to set the rules of the election. And if they weren't followed, what was happening back in 2020 and 2021 is governors like Kemp in Georgia would not allow the legislature to convene. And in Oklahoma, our governor has power to convene the legislature, and only by petition can a supermajority of the legislature do it. So if you gotta have 60-some people, a percent of the members saying, yeah, we need to convene, when they really only need 51% to fix something. So I've said you just got to convene to pass a resolution and say the election was followed according to the terms we set forth as a legislature. So legislatures need to step up on this, proactively. Yeah. And do it, because that way the courts then are mandated to follow a course. Right now they're just making it.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Well, listen, everyone, we're over time, so we should probably look at the clock on the wall and say, that's all, folks.
Right.
Hey, we'll talk to you next week. Have a great week. God bless. Take care.
Thanks for joining us.